And we are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Dialogues About Death show with your host, Chris Miller. There he is. How are you,
Good
Chris?
morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Awesome. Well, today we have an exciting topic. It's episode 9. I can't believe they've been going so quickly. And thank you,
Yes.
everyone who's been watching live and commenting and sharing this with people that you feel it would bless. And we really appreciate that. Asking questions. And this one came up today, Chris, for today's show.
Yeah.
And the title is What's on Your Bucket List? And Chris,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? Like I said, people always think bucket list. What does that mean? What does it mean to you?
Sure. For me, it's a couple things really, and I was thinking about this for the last couple days since we kind of had an idea of what we were going to talk about, and my bucket list has changed over the years. But first of all, let me go back. I think there's two bucket lists. There's some bucket list things that are really pertinent and important that you need to do in life.
Right?
And then there's that you definitely like, setting up a will, setting up estate planning, setting up, your pre-planning for your service. There's things that you need to plan for, like your retirement, your 401k. Those should be early on in your bucket list of things that you should set up earlier on in your life.
Right.
But then I was thinking, then there's the bucket list of all the dreams that you have. So, you've worked hard your whole life, and maybe you're starting into retirement and getting to that place where before you become too old and become too debilitated in your life, that you can go out and travel the world, or maybe like write a book, or do a podcast like this or something. So there's a lot of like dreams and aspirations that you have. So I've been marking a lot of those things off. I've accomplished a lot of those things, and there's still many more to come. But there's a but, because when life changes, your bucket list has to adjust too.
Right.
So I remember, back when I was married to my wife, Rhonda, we had a lot of dreams and aspirations, knowing it's like, hey, we were early on in our marriage and we had things that we wanted to do. We wanted to make sure our kids got to college and set things aside. But then after her, and we had dreams of like, yeah, once we retire, we want to go travel here and do this and get there. But then she
Right.
passed away. And so it's like some of those ideas, some of those bucket list dreams were dreams that you dream with your partner or your significant other.
Right.
And sometimes those things change. So then it's like, well, okay, you got to scratch those off. Not to say you can't do them, but it's
Right.
just just a different way of like, how should I approach this now? Because then you might find new people in your life that you want to share those things with, and they may not want to share those same things. So you might have to adjust your bucket list. Not to say I
Right.
still love to world travel, but maybe the
Sure.
places I think I wanted to go to with my past wife, my late wife, I would change it up a little bit. So maybe instead of going to Europe, I go to the Bahamas or something. So you change it up, but there's still world travel and still
Sure.
aspirations of doing things together. So that was my thing and my take on my bucket list, that bucket lists are lists, and they're you put them out there so you have something to reach for.
I
And
love
it's
that.
so important to have a goal. And sometimes they're unattainable, but you know what? It's still something to strive for. And you have maybe little bucket list things to get to that bigger goal later on down in life.
Right. I love that. And I
Yeah.
think the essence of the term bucket list, if someone is watching doesn't even know what the heck a bucket list is, it used to be the joke, like, what are you going to do before you kick the bucket? Which
Yeah.
is a term for passing away.
Yeah.
And as we always say, we put the fun in funeral here
We
at
try.
the Dialogues Before About Death
That's
show.
right.
And so I think it's important to talk about like what you need to plan for, what you need to think about. And so I have got some specific questions for you, Chris,
Okay.
that we've been asked that I wanted to bring up. And I'll ask you and then I'll go off screen. And again, just a little housekeeping too is if someone finds this interesting, we would love for you to sprinkle it amongst your community. Um, and
Yeah.
maybe it'll help somebody like figure some things out, which is really helpful.
Absolutely.
Also, if you can like ask us questions live. Chris loves that. Oh, and we have a few live people. So
Absolutely.
Erica is here. Welcome, Erica.
Morning.
Good morning. And Keisha as well. Yay.
Wonderful.
So
Great.
happy
Good to
to
see
see
you
you
guys.
guys.
Thanks for
Yes.
being on.
Yes. We were just talking about the internet has been a little wacky since the solar eclipse. So
Yep.
if we're one of us freezes or whatever, it is just we're gonna roll with it. So
We're going with the flow.
go with it. And also, if you're watching and you have a really cool bucket list item,
Yeah.
please share
I'd
it. Like
love to hear it.
Yeah, yeah,
I'd
that'd
love
be
to hear.
awesome. In fact, I'm accomplishing a bucket list item for myself for my birthday. I'm going to Italy in a
Yep.
couple weeks, and like that, I'm like a big check off my vision board. So that's exciting. So okay,
Well, hey, and another thing, Mary, before we hop into it, how
yeah,
about your book? You just published a book too. That had to be a bucket list thing.
it
Let's
was,
promote that
yes.
too. Let's get that
I
out there.
I
Where's
know,
your
right?
book?
You would think that I would have it. Say, I'll have to go grab it when I'm
Oh,
offline, and I'll show
okay.
it off.
There
Yeah, that. Thank
you
you. It
go.
was a big bucket list item. It's ever since I was just a wee child, and it's really
Yep.
it feels really good to get that checked off as well.
Yeah,
So thank you, Chris. That's
absolutely.
very sweet.
You're
Okay, cool.
welcome.
So the very first question we have
Yeah,
um, is because again, people are trying to think like, should I be thinking super deep? Should I thinking surface, right? So what are some of the common themes or aspirations you've observed among individuals who are planning their end of life wishes? So again, it's what are the common themes or aspirations that you have observed among individuals with their end of life wishes? And I'll go off
sure.
screen so you can answer.
Sure. So through my years in funeral service, I've ministered to many families throughout my lifetime, and I guess really a common theme to families, depending on how old they are. People that are younger have put their bucket lists together, but they may not have been able to achieve those things. But we've got a lot of great people in our community that have achieved a lot of amazing things, and I think it's really the to will to give back and leave your mark on life, to make a difference. And I know that there's a lot of people historically in our community that have done some amazing things, starting some not-for-profit organizations, making changes in our community. And so I think talking to families, they always want to memorialize their loved one and bring out those highlights in their life of the achievements that they've done. They might have had uh, small means. They may not have been a wealthy person, but they had a drive to make change. And I think those family members say, you know what, my mom or dad, they loved this organization, and they just wanted to like give everything they had, and they put all their time and their efforts to make this organization just something so special. And I know that when we're at funeral services and people are putting together their eulogies and their stories and stuff, they're always wanting to talk about those achievements, and it's important. Those are where we leave our marks, and leaving our marks and to making this world a better place is what it's all about. And so I'm saying, when I hear the people that are talking to me, it's really about leaving that special memory, that special mark, and leaving this world a better place, and especially our community, Corona. I deal with more people here locally, and I've seen and talked personally to so many people throughout my years of service here in Corona, that people, we are so blessed to be in this little area of the Circle City of Corona, California, that we've had so many people do so many wonderful things. It's kind of like a Mayberry RFD, little Andy Griffith show, Corona. We're small, but we're mighty. And I love to hear people's stories about all the little things. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to go to the Corona History Association annual dinner. And every year they recognize two or three founders or people that have achieved such wonderful things in our community. And so I'm looking forward to hearing about some other wonderful people here in town that have made Corona a special place to live, grow up, and they left their legacy here in Corona.
I love that. It's so true. It's so true. This community is amazing, and
Yeah.
I know that you winning the Citizen of the Year award back in January was a testament to how much you and your organization give back to the community. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Um,
Thank you.
so another question I have is, and by the way,
Sure.
you asked for it, so you got it. Here's my book.
Nice. Look at that.
Shameless plug.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
a
throw out the name, Mary. Throw out the name.
Yeah, so it's called Hello God. It's me, Martha, a 31-day journey from overwhelmed to overjoyed. And it's I the premise is based on the story of Mary and Martha in the Bible, and that I was
Nice.
named Mary, but according to the Bible, I'm actually really a Martha because I'm the one always doing the things, right? And
Yep.
God wants us to be more like Mary, which sit at the feet of Jesus and be
Yeah.
at rest and really have more of a balanced life. Where Martha's, again, you can't get things done without being a Martha,
Yeah.
but we he wants you to be able to rest more and just be able to enjoy the fruits of his gifts, right?
I actually last night during my scripture time before I went to bed, I actually read that story in the book of Luke last night. So
Oh my gosh.
it was what a tie-in that's what you wrote your book on, and I just read that last night in my scripture time. It was
Oh,
wonderful.
that's awesome. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
funny that my husband Steve actually mentioned as he was, he's reading the book as well, even though it's geared for women. And he was like, what's interesting is most likely, again, we don't know this, but most likely, Mary and Martha were always both busy getting things done, working in the kitchen
Yeah.
together. And that's probably why she had such a big problem with her not helping that day, because here
Yeah.
they had this amazing guest. And she was like, "Come on, I need your help in the kitchen. Like we have to get things
Yeah.
prepared." But
Yeah.
Mary, as the Bible says, Mary chose the better part,
Absolutely.
meaning
Yep.
she was like, "Heck no, I'm
That's right.
he might not be here forever, so I'm going to take this time to sit at his feet and like learn from him and be living in the moment." And so that's probably why she was like, "Hey Jesus, get
Yep.
her in here to help me." But he
Yep.
was like, "No, no, no, this is what I want for you. When you have an ability, you have the opportunity to do a bucket list item.
Exactly.
Take this to tie it into the
You-
show.
That's
Take
right.
that moment.
You got to
Do the
take that
thing
opportunity.
in the moment because you can never get more back that time." And
That is
so,
so correct.
yeah, so
That's what I
exactly.
was thinking. Mary was able to cross off her bucket list that she was able to spend those moments with Jesus. That was
Right.
really important. Yep.
Exactly, right? Come on,
Yeah.
girl. Anyway, so I think that's kinda cool. Anyway, so thank you for letting me shamelessly plug my book. Okay,
You bet.
so, our next question came in, it said that, um, have you encountered this is a question, have you encountered any clients who have accomplished significant items from their bucket list before they passed away? And if so, do you have an example or a story
Mm.
about your experiencing hearing about that from their families or from them during their pre-planning session? So again, any stories you have of people who've accomplished something that they were like, "Wow, this is the thing."
Mary, I don't have any really one specific story like I mentioned a little bit ago. There's been so many wonderful people here in our town that I just love to hear the stories. I'm trying to recollect. Hmm. I really can't say that. There's been so many. I can't just pull one person out
Oh,
because I've heard
sure.
so many. So
Well,
I'd
you
have to
mentioned it
say I
earlier.
can't. I mean, there could be some people out there they maybe online today, or like even when you read back in the feed, put down your things in the chat about your bucket list items, and we'd love to hear about those.
Yes, exactly. So Keisha and Badillo, that's a cool name. I love that.
Mm.
And Kathy, good morning. Yes, if you have
Morning.
any things that you've said, oh my gosh, this person wanted to create this, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, a wonderful nonprofit, or they took an amazing trip,
Yeah.
or they were able to bless their children with like that's a story that I hear a lot is that in hindsight, when I've attended a lot of funerals in my life, and the
Yeah.
children were like, my parents weren't braggadocious, as you would say. They didn't make a big deal about
Yeah.
it, but because of the way they lived their life, they were able, the legacy that they left through our children, through us children, was that they taught us to be good humans. They taught us to pay it forward. They taught us to do so even just in the lessons is a bucket list, but also other
Sure.
families have said because of their hard work, they were able to help me put a down payment on a home, or they
Yes.
were able to take us to a camping at the beach or little things that
Yes.
sometimes we think, "Oh, well, that's not a bucket list item." Well, yes, it is.
Yeah.
If you can instill the values in your children, that's going to
Yeah.
live for generations because
Yes.
you're setting a foundation for goodness. That's a legacy that
Absolutely.
is a huge bucket list item. Okay, so I'll ask
Absolutely.
you the next question.
Okay.
So, are there any instances of where individuals have expressed regrets about not pursuing certain experiences or adventures earlier in life? Has anyone come to you and said, "I really wish I would have done this, so I want to make sure my children do something different"?
Well, yeah, I would happen to say my dad, for instance. My mom tells us a story after he passed away. Um, they had just retired from the funeral business and they were on their RV trip across the country. And my dad enjoyed fishing, and he was out fishing the day before in his little rubber boat and stuff. And the next day they were whitewater rafting, and they had a beautiful day rafting out in Wyoming, and they were on this. And my dad had turned to my mom and said, "Boy, Pat, we should have been done this years ago. We should have retired and been enjoying life so much more." And then about 4 or 5 minutes later, my dad was bounced out of the boat, drowned, and passed away. So he really kind of regretted that he didn't retire and enjoy life sooner, because he passed away at the age of 67, just in a retirement. So that's just a personal experience of mine, of my dad regretting not retiring earlier in life and enjoying life that he worked so hard for.
Wow. I
Yeah.
literally was like, and you've told me that story before, but it was like,
Yeah.
wow, like minutes before. An
Yeah.
awesome thing that he was able to communicate that to your mom so she could share it with
Yep.
you. So
Yep.
you had that. Like, make sure you
Yeah.
plan your life and not just wait
Absolutely.
until you
That's right.
retire.
And that's why today I try to get away once a month for a little 3-day weekend, or just go out and enjoy life. Even though I'm still working, you got to enjoy life now. If
Yes.
that's anything, it's not even really a bucket list thing. It's just, don't hold back with regrets of saying, "Oh, I got to put this off till tomorrow." Take the opportunity. Like you said, you got to take the opportunity when you're up and able to do it. Carve out some time, once a month, once a week, whatever it is. Put something out there in your schedule so you don't have any regrets.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And so
Yeah.
that was another one of your father's wonderful legacies to you and to your
Yeah.
family. I love that. So hopefully people are
Absolutely.
listening will make it a point. Like, do the things. Do the
Do
things, right?
those things.
Yes.
Get family together. Sometimes there's, I know, listening to a lot of families, there's been always kind of tension. And unfortunately, death brings people together, or it tears families apart. So I'd
Right.
have to say, as another thing, kind of a bucket list thing, is don't hold back on regrets. Put those things aside and really make amends with people before they're gone, because it's the hardest thing to live with in your heart, by
Right.
not having closure, and maybe saying I'm sorry, and saying goodbye too. There's so many families these days. People are so transient. They live all over the country. Families don't live in the same city like they used to, and
Right.
so it's important. Sometimes you'll get a call from your mom and dad. It's like, "Oh, dad's not doing well. You may want to come visit in the next couple of weeks." And then you put it off, or you wait till that day, and then they pass away the day you get there, and you really didn't have your time. So
Yeah.
take the time to really have those closures. And I know that's a little sidetrack off the bucket list thing, but you
No.
don't want to hold anything back.
Yeah, I love that. In fact, I think Keisha was saying so true in regards to what we were talking about before. But Alex actually had a great insight. She said that my sister and I were blessed to be able to fulfill a bucket list item, which was to have part of his cremated remains back to his country, Ecuador. This was
Hmm.
part of her dad's bucket list. So
Nice.
that's awesome, Alex, that you were
Nice.
able to bring his ashes
Excellent.
there. That is fantastic. I love it. That's great.
Uh,
Okay, so the next question that came in, and again, if
yeah.
you guys watching have any questions or any bucket list ideas, it might
Comment.
be something that you have on your bucket list, or maybe it's something you've heard about somebody else fulfilling something on the bucket list. It might be an inspiration to someone. We don't know. Okay,
Yeah.
so the other question was, have you observed any cultural or spiritual influences that shape the bucket list aspirations of your clients?
Hmm.
So
That's
again,
interesting.
it's they's asking if there are any cultural nuances or spiritual nuances that help people create their bucket lists.
Well, I would definitely say, like, part of my one of my bucket list things is in my retirement, is to do more mission work internationally. I've helped my community, and I'll continue to help my community where I've lived and grown up, because my community entrusts me, and so I want to give back. But I feel, for me to even outreach even further, and so spiritually, going to church, they always say, try to look for your spiritual gifts, and to figure out what else you want to do. And so for me, I find it passion to go out and outreach in other countries, to make the world a better place. I've tried to make my community a better place. And if I could touch by love and peace, spreading that around the world outside of our United States. And I've had that opportunity. So over the last 7 8 years, I've been able to do some mission work in Israel, and I've done some mission work in Thailand and Cambodia. And I'm looking forward to doing that again this coming year in 2025 of going back and going back to some of those countries and continuing doing some ministry, helping those people get some of the things off of their bucket list, or creating bucket list items for those people in those areas. But I think if we spread our ourselves around the world, we can link each other to peace and harmony. And so I think that's an important thing. So we always bring it home. We always want to spread our peace and love here, but I think spreading our peace and love around the world is an important thing too. And I think spiritually for me, that's one way. Culturally for me, I've just grown up and been vested to do stuff like that. So that's just on a personal note of what I think is an important thing. Just by just my upbringing has given me the opportunity to outreach and spread peace and love throughout the world.
I love that. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah, and that, I
yeah.
mean, that's again how not only you were raised, but also your
With
faith.
my faith.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's awesome because not only are you able to bless others in other cultures and other countries, but you're also traveling, which is like a twofer, right?
it
With
really is. So I
travel,
get to do both. It's kind of like taking two marks off my bucket list.
yeah, exactly. Should be big checks on the wall. I love it.
A two
Okay,
for one.
two for one, yes. Okay, so another question came in. It said, "How do you approach conversations about legacy and leaving behind a meaningful impact with your clients? Do you ever have these conversations with your clients?"
Absolutely. We do this all the time during our funeral counseling sessions. When my staff sits down with families, we're always that's part of our ministry as a funeral director, of sitting down. We get vitals from our families, but then we also are talking to them about, tell me about your loved one, tell me about the things they've accomplished, tell me about some of their goals and aspirations that they've done, their hobbies and things. So we're always trying to pull that out, so then we can tie in maybe a theme around their celebration of life and their services. So that's a big part. It also helps us write the eulogy. It helps us write an obituary in putting things together. And it really helps the families open up a little bit. So when you have three or four people around the table, they start to share stories about mom or dad, of things that they did in their past. So I think it's kind of very healing for families that are able to share around their table while they're making their funeral arrangements. It kind of brings back memories. It kind of And that's such an important thing, because sometimes they'll share things that maybe other people haven't heard before. Sometimes it brings a little joy and laughter into the conversation during the time of their loss. So I think it's really kind of a great thing that we have that opportunity to bring families together during their time of funeral counseling and coordination, that the families can share that opportunity of their loved one.
I love that. Um, Something else that you do as well is that you host lunch and learns around the community. In fact, Alex is somebody who helps you with that. And there's
Yes.
one coming up next. I was just looking at your calendar here on the 18th
Yeah.
in at Rodrigo's in Corona. You're having a lunch
Yeah.
and learn at 11 o'clock. Make sure that's the correct time. And
Yeah.
we promote it on social media. And it's Chris, you're buying people lunch for free, no strings attached.
No
Um,
strings attached.
Yep, and they can
It's
come.
just one of those things that we can bring people together. They can even share their stories. Like I said, it's one of those bucket list things about preparing, planning, and check that out. I was just talking to one of my fellow Rotarians the other day, and he
Uh-huh.
goes, "Chris, I need my wife and I need to come in." And he's like in his almost in his 70s, 80s now. He's almost ready to retire. He goes, "Chris, we've been talking about this for years. We need to come in and make our funeral arrangements." I'm like, "Yeah, you better not wait any longer." I go, "Or it's going to be too late." I go, check it
Well,
off your list so you can go travel and enjoy life. It's one it Planning removes that burden. So those little bucket list items, like I said, your estate planning, your pre-need, your will, your all those things, you got to mark those off then, so then you can enjoy those other bucket list things down the line.
exactly. Yeah, and knowing that
Yeah.
you're not gonna be a burden, and people always worry about being a burden on their family.
Yeah.
If you and also the sooner you do it, the more cost effective it is. because
Absolutely.
you're buying your all of your funeral arrangements now
Yep.
versus
At
in,
today's price.
10, 20 years from now where all the inflation has gone up. So
Yep.
that's another benefit of that. But
There you go.
as I was saying, with like next week at Rodrigo's again
Yes.
on the Thursday, April 18th, 11 o'clock, free lunch.
Free
And you
lunch.
can share. That's something that Alex does, is ask people stories about their legacy and what
Yeah.
they want, not only for their funeral, but also like what they're proud of, from their life. And it's kind of fun. It creates a little community.
Yes.
In fact, we're also doing a Mother's Day celebration at Valencia Terrace coming up on April 29th. And they accept people to come in. In fact, if you want to check, never been to Valencia Terrace and you're always kind of curious about what it looks like inside, this would be a great opportunity. And so there'll be treats
Absolutely.
and lots of fun things there as well. But again, it's all about sharing with each other like what we've done or what we're proud of, or things maybe we want to still do, because maybe we can get ideas by
That's right.
being with other people. So I just love
Absolutely.
that. Okay. All right. We got a couple more questions before we sign off, because we know that you are a busy guy here.
Right. Time is
Um,
precious.
okay. So let's see. We have a few more. Let me just pick one really good one.
Okay.
Let's see. We've kind of asked that. We've asked about, so we've talked about so much, even off
We
script, Chris.
have.
I love it.
We've
Um,
knocked it a lot. We've knocked out a lot today.
That's right. Oh, here's one. Let's end with this one. So,
Okay.
can you share any stories of unexpected opportunities or experiences that have risen with from your clients while pursuing their bucket list aspirations? Can you remember of something that someone said, "Oh my gosh, I was," maybe even with you with your mission work, like you thought it was going to be a certain way, and then God just showed up and was like, "Here's something even more amazing." Can you think of anything like that? I know we're kind of saying it.
Wow.
People have
That's
asked these
that's really
questions on the fly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Boy, that's really stretching. Trying to
Yeah. Oh,
think here.
and by the way, Kathy just commented, pre-planning your funeral is one of the greatest gifts to leave your family. It is. I
That's
know with
it
my
is.
my grandmother, my parents, my mother put it off. And my grandmother was almost 98 when she passed away. She was 97, and I said, "Mom, I'm taking care of your mother. If something happens, like, what do I do?"
Yeah.
Because she was leaving on a big trip and her mom was in my
Yep.
care. I'm like, and so it was so refreshing when she and her brother went and made all the arrangements.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great, mom. Thank you. Like, now if you go to Hawaii, I will know what to do when you're gone. So it was such a
It
gift to
is. It's
me
so
as a
important.
granddaughter. So please do that for your family.
I would say that that's a bucket list everybody should have on their bucket list, and it should be checked.
Yeah.
It should be a checked. And
Yeah.
I always say it should be checked before you retire, because you want to do those things prior to your fixed income, because you want to have that paid off. So then your other disposable income could be used for fun in your retirement. And then,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, if you pay now, funerals double every 10 years. So if you don't do something today and you're living another 10 to 15 years, whatever the price is today, it's going to almost be double 10 years from now. So take care of it today. It's so
Right.
important.
And I think sometimes we think, oh, something we discussed this in the last show. So if any you guys have any questions, that's why this is episode 9. Chris has given so much great information about, everything. But you just
Burial,
said something too.
cremation,
It's
death.
like, I think, oh, my Medicare will pay for it. Well, no, it won't. Oh, my
Yeah.
insurance will pay for it. No, it won't. And so it's not, even though, there's no U-Hauls in the back of your hearse, right? People, you
Nope,
can't take it with you. So
you
basically you're
can't.
leaving that expense to your children. And you know what? That's something they probably don't want to deal with when they're dealing with the loss of you. So I
That
think
is
it's a
correct.
it's a gift to them to say, you know what? When I go,
Please.
here's all the things to do, and I'm good, and you're
Yep,
going to be good too.
that's
So
right.
yes.
That's right.
Okay. So if you haven't thought of any ideas, we don't have to cover
I
this today. We've
yeah, I
covered
don't
so much.
I can't think of how anybody's but things that have been shared with me, how they've like changed their life or changed the way they were thinking. I can't recall of anything right off
That's
the top
okay.
of my head.
That's okay. I put you on the spot. But if
That's okay.
anybody else like is watching this and they think of like, oh my gosh, this would happen to my family or somebody in my
Yeah.
life,
We'd love to hear
we would,
about it.
yes, we would love to hear about it, because I think that's all about being part of a community, is to be able to share our hopes and dreams and questions and get those questions answered. And that's why I
Yeah.
really appreciate your show, Chris. I think it
Yep.
helps a lot of people.
Yep. And I just ask more people out there that are listening to my show. you have questions, curiosity about anything regarding funeral service, I'm here for you. We'll put it down in the chat. Mary does. We'll do a little research. She'll ask the questions, and I'll try my best to answer them for you.
I love it. I love it. All right, everybody. Until the next time, we have, I believe we have one more show this month, Chris.
I
It's
believe
not this
so.
Friday, but the Friday after.
Yep.
I'm just double checking here. We have, I believe it is, gosh, the 26th
Yes.
is our next show.
26.
And so we love you to tune in, ask your questions. If you know of anyone who might be interested in this topic, we would love for you to tag them in the comments below. So we'll make sure to get them a notification.
Spread the
Spread
news.
the news. I love it. All right. Oh, and last before we go away, because we're going to start
Yeah.
promoting this a little bit more, you are still the current president of OGR, which stands for the Order of the Golden Rule.
Yeah. And our convention is going to be held May 7th through 9th in Savannah, Georgia. I am going to be the outgoing president. I'm going to be finishing up my term, and we're going to be inviting Jamie Wittig from Chilton, Wisconsin, to be our new president this coming year. So we're
Woohoo!
looking forward to Jamie's leadership and continuing OGR's traditions in the future.
That's awesome. And for anyone who doesn't know, what is the Order of the Golden Rule?
So OGR is a worldwide organization of funeral homes that are family owned and operated. We're all independent, and we all come together to share our stories and our struggles and our successes from around the world. And we come together as a group, just supporting each other and helping each other, just make each other better and supporting each other in our time of need, because we all sometimes need our own person to talk to and let things out. And when you have confidence within your own profession, it's really great. So I want to take the opportunity to say, you know what, if any other funeral directors are out there that aren't part of the Order of the Golden Rule, join now, because it's a great group of people, of mom and pops from around the world coming together to make independent funeral homes better and exceptional.
I love that.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted you to share what you're going to be talking about because you're one of the keynote
Yeah.
speakers. So, share a little bit about what you're going to be talking about in Savannah, Georgia in a couple weeks.
Sure. They have asked me to be one of the speakers during our conference this year, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about cremation and the options that people have. So many people think cremation is just so limited. So they've asked me as a funeral home owner to talk about my perspective of cremation, and then they have some suppliers and how we work together with some of our suppliers on making cremation a little bit more. With a little bit more memorable, a little bit more creative in ways of disposition on merchandise and things of remembrance when it comes to cremation. So they have asked me to speak and give my insight on what I offer, and we're really fortunate that we offer an array of assortment of cremation options at Thomas Miller Mortuary here in Corona, which I'm privileged to do. I work with a lot of suppliers from around the country, and I do a lot of different test marketing items of merchandise and promotional items for cremation. So they wanted my intake on how it's worked for me. Since we're here in California, we're a little bit more progressive when it comes to ideas for sharing cremation. And so I look forward to sharing my ideas and my successes over the last 10 to 15 years that we've been in full service cremation since we have our on-site crematory. We are able to offer a little bit more than what most funeral homes offer out there. So I'm really excited to share those stories and insights to all my fellow funeral directors from around the world.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. Very cool. And it's in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. So,
it
heck,
is.
that's awesome.
I'm
And
looking
is there
forward to it.
still time for someone to register if they're interested?
Yes, I believe early bird is for like this next week. Like,
Oh,
well, today's Friday. I think today is the last day for early bird pricing. But yes, there's still room available. I think we've already got more people showing up than last year, so we're going to have a great group of people coming out. I'm looking forward to seeing all my old friends and fellow funeral directors from around the world, and it'll be a great time. So if you haven't signed up yet, please do so. And we can't wait to see you in Savannah.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. Okay. And also next year is it's coming to Riverside. So
Next
at the
year, our
Mission Inn.
conference will be here in Southern California in Riverside at the Mission Inn.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris. So much great information. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Oh, so we had a couple of people also join us. Chris, and also
Oh,
thank you.
morning,
Good
Chris.
morning, and also Carlene. I'm so happy that
Beautiful.
you enjoyed the show today. So
Great.
again,
Thanks.
we're going to be coming here to you live in 2 weeks on April 26th.
26.
So we look forward to having you guys join us live. And thank you again. God bless everyone listening. And until then, it's Dialogues About Death, episode 9, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Take
Bye.
care, everybody.